Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Glad you can join us.
Yeah, good to be here. We've got another interesting piece of tech to unpack today.
We do. We're zeroing in on a specific outdoor security camera. It's the Amcrest Ultra HD 4K Outdoor Security IP Turret PoE camera.
Whoa, that's a name. Model IP8M T2599EWAIV3 for anyone keeping score at home. Found on Amazon.
Exactly. And our mission really is to take that Amazon product page, the descriptions, the specs, the price, and importantly, all those customer reviews.
With all that real-world feedback.
Right, and just sort of distill it. We want to figure out what this camera actually offers, cutting through the marketing hype and the noise.
Understand the promises versus the reality according to buyers.
Well,
what are the key takeaways if you're maybe thinking about getting one?
Precisely. We're digging into this listing, the specific product. Okay, let's jump in. The big headline feature is obviously the resolution. Ultra HD 4K 8MP, it says. So 3,840 by 2,160 pixels.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pixels, right?
It really is. I mean, compare that to standard full HD 1080p. That's about 2 megapixels.
Oh, wow.
So 4K is like 4 times the pixel count, which, in theory means much sharper images, better zoom potential on recordings, assuming conditions are good.
Okay, assuming conditions are good. So what does the source material, those customer reviews, say about how that 4K actually performs out there?
And this is where, the rubber meets the road. The feedback on daytime 4K quality seems overwhelmingly positive.
Really? Like noticeably good?
Yeah, people using words like amazing, superb. Quite a few reviewers specifically mention being impressed by the clarity.
Any specifics?
Some mention being able to read license plates from like 40 feet away, maybe even 50 feet.
Okay, that's actually pretty useful context. Give you a real sense of what that 4K gets you.
Exactly. It suggests the hardware, the sensor, and lens are doing a good job at that high resolution, at least when there's plenty of light. So daytime clarity, check. Seems like it delivers for the price.
Right, good to know. Now, the listing also talks about, let me see, latest CMOS image sensor and chipset for enhanced low light capability. But then it kind of pivots to talking about the standard IR night vision, the infrared LEDs. Claims a range up to 98 feet. What did people say about night performance?
Yeah, this is one of those areas where the customer feedback brings in some, let's say, nuance. Maybe even a bit of a disconnect.
How so?
Well, that enhanced low light capability usually means the sensor can capture color images in lower light before it switches to black and white IR.
Okay, so it stays in color longer as it gets dim.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But once it's properly dark, it flicks over to the infrared mode using those built-in IR LEDs to light things up in black and white.
Okay.
And while some users did say the night mode was generally pretty good for just seeing things,
Okay.
others pointed out some pretty significant limits, specifically with motion detection range at night.
Detection range versus just visibility range.
Exactly. One review, for instance, said motion detection using the IR seemed effective only out to maybe 25 feet.
25 feet. But the listing says 98 feet for the IR range. That's a huge difference.
It is, and it's a really important distinction to understand.
Why would there be such a gap?
Well, the 98-foot number, that's likely the max distance the infrared light can illuminate something enough for the camera sensor to physically see it. So you can view the scene live or recorded.
Okay, so it lights things up that far.
Right. But getting reliable motion detection is trickier, especially the basic kind, which just looks for pixel changes. That's super sensitive to things like how big the object is, how fast it's moving.
And how clear it looks.
Exactly. Contrast, clarity. Infrared light fades over distance. Objects look smaller, less distinct. So it's much harder for the software to reliably tell the difference between, say, a person walking at 80 feet and just noise or leaves blowing or shadows shifting.
I see.
So you might be able to see a blob at 90 feet, but the camera's brain might only be confident enough to trigger a motion alert for a person or a car when they're closer, maybe within that 25-foot range where they're bigger and clearer in the IR view.
That makes a lot more sense. It's not necessarily weak LEDs, but the software is struggling to interpret the dimmer, fuzzier image further out for detection.
Precisely. It's a common thing with security cameras. Illumination range doesn't always equal effective detection range, particularly for basic motion sensing.
So for someone thinking of buying this, they need to consider how far out they need reliable motion alerts at night. If it's past 25, 30 feet, maybe this camera alone isn't the whole solution there.
Could be a limitation, yeah. Maybe need extra lights or think about placement. Understanding that difference is key.
Got it. Okay, what else? The listing mentions a viewing angle. Super wide, 105 degrees, it says. Some reviews mentioned even wider, like 112 degrees.
Yeah, it seems to be somewhere in that 105 to 112 degree range. Either way, that's pretty wide.
Definitely covers a big area.
Absolutely. And that's the upside, right? A single camera can watch over a much bigger space, driveways, yards, entryways, fewer cameras needed overall, potentially.
Makes sense. People like that.
Yeah, reviewers did highlight the wide-angle view as being good for covering the property. But it's also, a bit of a trade-off.
How so?
Well, you've got those 8 million pixels, the 4K resolution, spread across that really wide view.
Ah, okay.
So things way off at the edges or far in the distance within that wide frame might actually look smaller and have less detail compared to a camera with the same 4K resolution, but a narrower, more focused lens.
Right. Pixels are stretched thinner, effectively.
Kind of, yeah. And sometimes super wide lenses can introduce a bit of that fisheye distortion near the edges.
Do the reviews mention that?
Not heavily, and given the positive comments on daytime clarity, it sounds like Amcrest managed that balance okay, at least in good light.
Okay. So wide view is great for coverage. Might slightly impact fine detail at the edges compared to a zoom lens, but overall daytime clarity is still good.
Got it. Let's talk installation. It's a turret PoE camera.
Right. Turret is just the shape like a ball in a socket, lets you aim it easily.
And PoE, what's that stand for?
Power over Ethernet. And this is a big deal, especially for outdoor setups.
Why is that?
It means you run just one cable, a standard Ethernet network cable from the camera, back to your network gear. And that single cable carries both the power for the camera and the data from the camera. Oh, seriously? No separate power cord needed?
Exactly. No need to find an outdoor outlet nearby. No need to run 2 different types of cables. Just one Ethernet cable does both jobs.
Wow.
Provided, of course, that your network switch or your recorder supports PoE output. Or you use what's called a PoE injector, which adds power to the line.
Does the listing mention that?
Yep, it notes that a PoE switch or injector is required and sold separately. Important detail.
Okay.
But yeah, customers definitely confirm this makes setup way easier. They mentioned no extra wiring needed, called it straightforward. It's just a much cleaner, more reliable connection method outdoors.
That sounds like a huge plus, especially for DIY folks. Okay, so it's easy to connect. How tough is it? It's going outside, after all. Listing says IP67 weatherproof.
Right. IP67 is a standard rating. The IP stands for ingress protection.
Ingress, like stuff getting in.
Exactly. Solids like dust and liquids like water. The 6 height means it's totally dust tight. No dust gets inside the housing.
And the
7 means it's protected against being immersed in water, up to 1 meter deep, about 3 feet for up to 30 minutes.
Whoa, immersion. So way more than just rain.
Absolutely. You're probably not dunking your security camera.
Definitely not.
But that IP67 rating means it's built tough. Heavy rain, snow, sprinklers hitting it, even temporary puddles around the base, it should handle it fine.
And do users back that up?
Yeah, reviews mention the solid metal construction, praise how well it holds up in bad weather or thunderstorms, things like that. So the heavy-duty metal weatherproof IP67 housing claim seems pretty well validated.
Okay, so physically solid, easy PoE connection. Now, where does all that 4K video go? How do you actually record and watch stuff?
Good question. The listing gives you a bunch of options here, which is nice. Offers flexibility.
Like what?
You can use Amcrest Cloud, their subscription service. You can pop a micro SD card right into the camera itself. It supports up to 256 GB.
Local storage, nice.
Yep, or you can connect it to an Amcrest NVR that's a network video recorder. Or even use third-party recorders like Synology or QNAP network drives.
NAS drives, okay.
Right, or FTP upload, or even just record straight to your computer using their software or other compatible stuff like Blue Iris.
That's quite a list. So you're not forced into a cloud plan if you don't want one?
Correct. That micro SD card option is key for local storage without extra hardware. Record right on the camera.
Seems simple enough.
It is, but one reviewer made a good point about using the SD card as your only storage.
Oh.
They suggested it's maybe better as a backup, a fail-safe, rather than the main way you store and review footage, especially for continuous recording.
Why is that? Too much data.
Exactly. 4K video eats up storage fast. A 256 GB card is decent, but it'll fill up. And managing lots of footage, reviewing clips, accessing it smoothly, especially remotely, it's just less efficient doing that directly off the camera's SD card compared to a dedicated NVR or NAS.
Right. Those are basically specialized computers with hard drives built for handling lots of video streams 24/7.
Precisely. They're designed for that constant recording, long-term storage, and easy playback for multiple cameras.
Okay, so SD card is good for maybe motion clips or backup, but for serious recording, an NVR or similar is probably the way to go. And the cloud option, Amcrest Cloud.
Yeah, that gives you off-site backup. So if your NDR dies or someone steals the camera, your footage is safe in the cloud. Adds redundancy.
Right.
But the source material, the listing info, does note that cloud pricing can get steep, which is pretty typical for storing high-res video streams online. It's an ongoing cost to factor in.
Got it. Local options, cloud options, make sense. What about actually interacting with the camera? You know, the apps, the software. Listing mentions Amcrest View for phones, Amcrest Surveillance Pro for PC. How's that experience?
This seems to be where users had a more varied experience. Suggests there might be a bit of a learning curve.
Especially for beginners.
Potentially, yeah. Some reviewers said the mobile app was straightforward or easy to use once they figured it out.
Once they figured it out.
Right. But quite a few comments said the software, both mobile and PC, could use some work, or was maybe the camera's weak part.
Oof, what kind of issues?
People described setting things up, the configuration, as not altogether intuitive, especially if you're new to IP cameras.
Any specific examples?
Yeah. Some mentioned needing a separate tool on a computer just for the initial setup, like initializing the camera. Others had trouble finding the default login info, said it wasn't clear in the quick start guide, having to dig around.
That sounds potentially frustrating.
And then there's the confusion over multiple Amcrest apps. Seems that there's Amcrest View, Amcrest Smart Home, Amcrest Cloud. Users noted they're very different.
Oh, great. So you have to figure out which one to even use.
Apparently. Could lead to some head scratching trying to get the right one working for your needs.
So the physical install with PoE might be easy, but the software side, getting it online and configured, might take more patience or technical comfort.
That seems to be the picture, yeah. And this actually ties back to that motion detection stuff we talked about earlier.
How so?
Well, if the software isn't super intuitive, setting up things like motion detection zones or adjusting sensitivity properly can be tricky.
Right.
And some users found that the basic motion detection, the kind that just looks for any pixel changes in an area, was unsatisfactory.
Why? Too many false alarms.
Exactly. Triggering on shadows moving, trees swaying in the wind, headlights sweeping across. Basically anything that changes the picture, even if it's not something you care about. It doesn't know what's moving.
But wait, didn't the model name have AI v3 at the end? Doesn't AI usually mean smarter detection, like telling people apart from cars or cats?
And that is a very good question, given the model name.
So does it have that AI?
Well, here's the thing. While AI is in the name, the main Amazon product description we looked at doesn't really shout about specific AI features like person detection or vehicle detection as a key selling point. It focuses more on the standard motion detection and the customer reviews. While they definitely mention problems with the basic motion detection causing false alerts, they don't seem to be widely discussing advanced AI features working well or being easy to set up.
So the AI might be limited or hard to use, or just not the focus of the feedback.
Could be any of those, yeah. Based only on this specific product page and the reviews shared there, relying heavily on that AI in the name for, say, super accurate person detection with minimal false alerts might be setting yourself up for disappointment. It's not clearly described or consistently confirmed by users in the source material.
That's a really important distinction. The name suggests intelligence, but the readily available info and user feedback don't strongly back that up as an easy out-of-the-box feature.
Okay.
But so let's try to pull this all together. Based on the Amazon page, the specs, the reviews, what's the overall vibe for this specific Amcrest camera?
Okay, summing it up from these sources, people seem genuinely happy, even impressed, with the core job of capturing video during the day. That 4K clarity, seeing details like license plates, big thumbs up.
Right.
The build quality, the solid metal weatherproof housing also gets praised.
Yeah.
And that PoE installation, definitely seen as a major convenience.
And the price point seemed reasonable for 4K PoE.
Yeah, around $95 when the source was checked. Users generally felt that was good value for the daytime picture quality and the hardware. The overall Amazon rating, like 4.2 stars from over 1,900 reviews, reflects that general satisfaction with the basics.
Okay, so strong on daytime video, build, and PoE setup for the price. But the caveats, the areas where people were less thrilled,
Seem to be mainly around nighttime performance. Specifically, the effective range and reliability of motion detection when using IR. And then there's the software side, the apps, the setup process, which Quite a few people found unintuitive or needing a learning curve.
Right, the user experience part beyond the basic image capture.
Exactly. So the sources paint a picture. Great daytime camera, robust build, easy physical install with PoE. But you might need some technical patience for the software setup and maybe temper expectations about how far out it'll reliably detect motion at night or how sophisticated the AI features are based just on this listing.
Okay, so that wraps up our deep dive into the Amcrest IP8M T2591 EWA IV3 camera, focusing strictly on the info from its Amazon listing and customer reviews. We saw impressive 4K daytime quality, solid build, easy PoE setup, definite value there, according to users.
And we also highlighted where the feedback was more mixed. Effective night motion detection range and the usability challenges some users found with the software and apps.
So here's a final thought to leave you with as you process all this. Considering the balance we saw in this specific listing, the really good daytime clarity and hardware versus those potential quirks with night detection and software usability, how much does finding the right security camera depend less on just chasing the highest specs on the box, like 4K or 98-foot night vision, and more on really matching the camera's specific documented strengths and known weaknesses to your actual needs and, frankly, your tolerance for potentially fiddling with settings and software?
It's that balance between the potential advertised and the practical reality you encounter. Definitely something to think about.